Hey everyone, Jeff Riston here. Trying something a little different today with the Daily DLP. We're doing this one live. I am on the road. I am in a hotel room in Marquette, Michigan, as I get ready for Michigan Huskies basketball today. My son and the Huskies take on Grand Valley State in a GLIAC semifinal, and I'm up here for that. And I have a little bit of time before I get together with some of the other parents here to talk about Taylor Decker and the Detroit Lions and everything that's going on with the Lions. Because yesterday, this all happened as I was driving up here. The news broke about 10 minutes after I left. It is a roughly 7-hour drive for me to get up here. It was a harrowing one. It was very foggy. Crossing on the Mackinac Bridge yesterday. As I'm on the bridge, I look out to the right. I can't see the water or ice. I guess it's still frozen. Look up, can't see the top of the bridge. So it was not exactly a stress-free drive. But the drive gave me a lot of time to think about what's going on with Taylor Decker and what's going on with the Lions. And I thought I would go with that and offer you all the chance to go in. But, I apologize. The mic isn't working. I don't have my mic with me. We'll work on that here. Let's see. Microphone should be good. I hope so. All right. Hopefully that goes. All right. Anyhow, hopefully the sound is working. I see your comments now. Good. Sorry about that. I did not have my microphone. That is still sitting on my kitchen counter at home. My bad. Kind of left in a scramble. We had a thunderstorm yesterday. By the way, before I get into this, quick prayers and thoughts for all the people that were affected by the severe weather yesterday in the Three Rivers and Union City area. It made the big news up here in the UP. Hope everybody is okay on that. I saw that the Menards and Three Rivers got hit. Look, as you all know, I'm a weather junkie, and I hate seeing disasters like that, especially in March. It's very early for tornadoes. I hope everybody's okay with that. Let's get into Decker on that somber note. This is a surprise I think it's more surprising to Taylor Decker, honestly, than it is to a lot of us. He announced that he was coming back, and we're all excited, and I'm certainly one of them. I was very happy to have him come back. And it apparently didn't dawn on him or a lot of us, and I'll throw my hand in that too, that the Lions might ask him to take a pay cut. Because he's making a lot of money for a guy that's playing in what should be his last year and hasn't been healthy. Look, his play definitely declined in 2025. There's no way around that. The shoulder injury clearly impacted him. He can't practice. I'm not sure that was going to get better going forward, and the Lions wanted to take some financial responsibility for that, or Decker to take some financial responsibility for that risk. He apparently wasn't willing to play ball on that. That's just my understanding of the situation. Wasn't in there. Haven't talked to Taylor. I would like to. Taylor, if you're watching, I'd love to talk to you sometime when the dust settles a little bit, hopefully. It's just frustrating because now we're back to where we were a couple of weeks ago when we're like, oh, crap, we need a starting left tackle right away. Like, we got to get one. And I talked about it on the Daily a couple of days ago and yesterday, too, in the mailbag. By the way, thanks for the questions. They were drafting an offensive tackle, Taylor Decker's replacement, regardless of whether he was on this team or not. Like, that hasn't changed. I do think that it now changes the dynamic and the urgency for it, where the first-round pick now feels like it almost has to be the offensive tackle. It doesn't, like, whether it's Blake Miller from Clemson, who I think is probably their preferred target, Caleb Lomu. I don't think Monroe Freeling's going to be there. In fact, I did a radio spot this morning in Cleveland where they're like, he's our favorite at 6, and it seems to be that's the growing consensus on that. So Yeah, the Decker, as far as Decker goes, like, I don't think asking him to take a pay cut was unreasonable by the Lions. It might have been. It's weird that he wasn't prepared for that. And just based on his reaction on his Instagram post and when he asked for his release, it felt like he was blindsided by that. And I'm not sure that he should have been. I think his agent might have wanted to, feel things out a little bit there. And look, I understand Taylor's side of it. He's very well paid. He's not going to get another big contract. When you're pondering retirement openly the way he did, and you come back, yeah, you're on your last year. Nobody's going to pay you $18 million for 1 year. They're just not, even as good as he can be. With the injury history that he had, with the way that his play declined last year, I think it's perfectly fair for the Lions to ask for it. And I think the lack of foresight on his part that they might ask him to do that, that's on him. It's on his agent. Could the Lions have maybe reached out to him and let him know that beforehand? Yeah, and we don't know that they didn't. But this one strikes me as that's more on the player. And the fact that he's going to play hardball on that and not take a pay cut, I get that. I get that for Decker. I don't like it as a Lions fan, but I understand that he's got to maximize his earnings in what looks like his final season. So that's where it's at with Decker. So as far as blaming the Lions on this one, you can. This one strikes me as much more being on the player's end, though. And as far as Decker then asking for his release, and look, we know Taylor Decker. We know he is a spirited dude. He probably didn't take the perceived slight or insult or asking for his money back very well, which is understandable. And he decided to take his ball and go home, or go to Chicago or Cleveland or somewhere else, Houston. It's a little strange that they didn't try to trade him. And by the way, we don't know that they're not trying to trade him or work something out behind the scenes to get things done, but he's not going to be on Detroit. It's just a matter of where he gets to, where he winds up. But now they do have a massive hole at offensive tackle. The tackles, other than Penei Sewell, who's the best in the business at right tackle, are Giovanni Manu and maybe Miles Frazier. I still think Frazier's a better tackle than guard, but I don't know that the Lions share that opinion. They didn't last year. We'll see how that changes. But I loved his college film when he was at Florida International at tackle, left tackle. And I do think that what he does, the way he plays, he's better at left than inside. But we'll see. They've got an option there. Manu, who knows, man? It was great that LaCharles Bentley posted the video of Manu working out. He looks like he's physically fantastic. But can he play football? I don't know. I don't think anybody in this chat knows. I don't think the Lions know yet. It would be great if he could replace Dan Skipper as the number 3. I think that's probably the most realistic aspiration that Lions fans can have for Giovanni Manu right now, is that he can come in and be the 6th tackle or 6th offensive lineman and number 3 tackle, and you pray to God that your starters don't get hurt. I apologize, I forgot to mute my phone. That's my bad. Did not need that email either. Great. Anyhow, one of the things that I wanted to hit on, and so I was driving yesterday, so I didn't get up here till 8:30, and I clicked on my social media feeds, and they were full. And there was an interaction that happened on X, and I wanted to spotlight that because I thought it was a good discussion, and it was both sides of the argument, and I don't think that people, the guys involved, they didn't agree, but they didn't make it personal. They had good points. So the guys, and I alerted them that I was going to do this. One of the guys who I interact with a lot on Twitter, GFS Reg, he's a knowledgeable dude. I enjoy interacting with him even when we disagree. Like it's professional. It's a discussion. And he wrote, hope Brad has a plan because it's hard to imagine we can fill all the holes we now have in 1 year. Should be interesting, but our captains and Anzalone, Monty, Decker do not sound happy with this regime. There's a lot of people that feel that way. There are a lot of people that feel that way. And it's easy to see that angle for sure. And then Max 11089, I hope that's your zip code. I don't know that. Responded with the counter. All old guys will be replaced just like every year. 15 to 20 new players coming in next 2 months. New captains take the reins. He mentioned Sewell, Campbell, St. Brown, Hutchinson, Goff. All good teams that re-sign stars have to cut vets. This is how all good teams act. We're just not used to this. Agree with all that too. Like it's weird when both sides make good points that are true. Like, and you kind of have to filter through your design. And then Villo Gonzalez chimed in. We are used to our guys staying past their due dates. And this is where I wanted it to go because I think there's a lot of truth in that. And this is different for the Lions because they are now a contender. Yes, they're still a contender. It's very hard to let guys like Decker in the situation that he's in where he's at the end of his career and you let him go because we've loved Taylor. Look, he's the last vestige of the Quinn Trisha regime. He was their first pick. He was back 2016. That he was their first round pick. None of those guys were left with Glasgow being gone again. That's stunning, but it is also an acknowledgement that they think they can do better for the money. So I just wanted to bring that discussion up because I thought all three people who contributed to it brought different viewpoints, and I'm seeing them in the comments here. Like they're all good points. They're all valid. And I know some people are going to side on the fact on the side of the fence where the Lions made a mistake in letting Decker go. And there are going to be just as many who are like, good riddance. He wasn't worth the money anymore. It's time to move to the future. The David Montgomery thing, because it happened so close to the David Montgomery thing, I think that also gets wrapped in where it's been a shocking week for Detroit. It has. It's been crazy. We sort of knew, especially coming out of the combine, those of us who were down in Indy, that David Montgomery was not long for Detroit, that he was looking to get out. And while people didn't want to hear it then, I actually think that the Lions did a pretty good job of both doing right by Montgomery and sending him to a place that's where he can be the number one running back and will get a lot of carries and get a chance to maximize his career earnings, because don't think for a second that's not what it's about. Like, he would have been okay getting limited carries in Detroit, but you can't pay him as much as you were to be a guy who touches the ball 12 times a game. Well, Houston can pay him that, and he'll get the ball 20 times a game down there. That bodes well for his next contract or a renegotiation of his current contract where Houston pays him a lot more money as a bonus and extends the year out a deal. That wasn't going to happen for him in Detroit. He knew that. The Lions knew that. Juice Scruggs, I don't know, man. Like, I hope he can play. I've seen him at his best. I've seen him at his worst. His best, he can be what Evan Brown was in Detroit as a stopgap interior offensive lineman that can give you 6 good games out of 10, but you're always going to want a little bit more. At his worst, he doesn't make the team. Straight up. Wasn't good last year. Does do his best work at center, though, so I'm optimistic about that. So I see the comments over here. I probably should be paying more attention to this. Chris normally does this. Chris couldn't be with me today, so I'm doing it by myself. Decker asked for his release. The Lions haven't released him yet. That is true. The transaction was not processed by 4 p.m. yesterday, so it did not make that transaction, the daily transaction log. NFL doesn't do business on weekends, so it won't happen until Monday. And somebody asked here, so trading Decker is still a possibility. Yeah, I guess. But if you know that he's going to be released, why would you trade for him? Because when you trade for him, you're absorbing the contract that Detroit doesn't want to pay. I don't think another team is going to want to pay Decker, $14 million for a year to compete to be their starting tackle when you've got a very robust draft coming up. Like it makes sense for a team like I'll use the Browns as an example because they need an entire new starting offensive line, and they did actually make a trade to get one offensive line from Houston. That's a move that a contender makes. What contenders, other than the Texans, really need a starting offensive tackle? Patriots, maybe? I don't know, but they're not going to give up that kind of resources for Decker. So, I mean, it would be one of those where the Lions would be eating a significant portion of the salary just to get rid of him when they can just release him and save even more. And then Decker can get out there in the open and get in a bid, offer his services to where he wants to go and for whoever wants to pay him the most. So from that sense, I don't see any trade happening, although it is technically possible they still could do it. But you're not going to get that. That's just not the reality of football in these days. Yeah, Tyler, you're right. It's amazing we went from having the best O-line 2 years ago to whatever it is now. Well, it's not awful. I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse in Detroit. You have the right side of the line is as good as any going forward with Penei Sewell and Tate Ratledge. Ratledge might move to center. Don't know that he is. Don't know that he isn't. But he's a good one. He's a keeper. Going to be an above-average starter at either spot. I absolutely believe that he can move into center and be fine there. Be better than fine. Not asking him to be Frank Ragnow, but he'll be better than what we've seen from Graham Glasgow or Evan Brown or other interlopers while Ragnow has been out like that. Christian Mahogany, he's got to play better. I think a full, healthy offseason would do him wonders. It would be great to get him, because I still think he's a quality starting guard. He's got to be better than he was last year. He needs to be challenged for that. That's what Juice Scruggs is for. This might be what Miles Frazier is for. And beyond that, yes, it's kind of barren, but at least you're starting with a couple of bedrock building blocks. Draft, you got to address offensive line early, whether it's your first pick, whether that's Blake Miller from Clemson, whether it's Caleb Lomu, whether it's Spencer Fano, who could fall because he's got short arms. By the way, there are a lot of draft analysts who think that he's best at center. I don't necessarily share that, but it's worth a try. I mean, you've seen it work with Zach Tom in Green Bay is a great example of it, just because of the short arms. Francis Mawanoa is probably a guard or right tackle only. There are options. Max Ahinaker from Arizona State is a guy that he's moving up the draft board, so you're probably not going to get him at 50 anymore. Can you use the draft pick that you acquired in the Montgomery trade, the fourth rounder, and package it with your second rounder to move up? Sure, if you need to. If you're hell-bent on taking somebody at 17 that's at a different spot, you can do that. Well, thank you. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that, Aaron. Appreciate the kind words. I do unfortunately have to cut this in a few minutes. We have a Michigan Tech parent pregame that we always do. It's a ritual, and I'm enjoying being part of it. Glad they let me in because it's fun. It's great environment. I have a lot of nervous energy, so I needed to get this out here too. I appreciate that. As far as the tackles, I'll go into them a little bit. I do like Blake Miller a lot. I talked about him in the video the other day when I did the top 5 options at top 5 realistic options at 17. He is absolutely one. He was one before, and now I think he's even more realistic. I love how much his game grew in 2025 after starting for 3 years prior. He kept getting better. More to the point, he got better at the things he needed to get better at to be good in the NFL. That tells me that he's going to keep working. That tells me that he's got that Taylor Decker mindset of, because remember when Taylor Decker got here, and this was the knock on him in my scouting report when he's coming out of Ohio State. 90% of the plays in the game, he's going to be good. But there's the random 3 to 5 plays a game where you look at him like, have you ever played football before? He got better at that. Those largely ironed out to where it was maybe 1 a game. That development still happens at the next level. And I think Blake Miller is a very good one. I do like Caleb Lomu a lot. I do. From Utah. I think he can play left tackle. That would keep Panay at the right, which is my preferred outcome, although it's weird when you say that and people instantly think, oh, resistance against moving him. No, I'm not opposed to moving him to left tackle, but I would prefer that he stay at right. He's the best in football there. Don't break something that isn't broken. It doesn't need fixing, But if he moves to the left side, I have no doubt that Panay Sewell would be one of the best left tackles in football right away as well. And it might be easier to find a free agent replacement at right tackle, whether it's Braden Smith from the Colts, who's coming off of an injury, but was a good, I believe he was a 2nd-round pick. Good player. He can start. That's an option, absolutely. So you're not necessarily stuck with, Panay has to stay on the right side. You're not stuck with, we have to get a left tackle, we have to get a right tackle. And that flexibility plays well in this draft class and also in free agency where, look, it's not a great free agent class. At tackle, it never is. Rasheed Walker is probably the top regarded offensive lineman. He doesn't fit Detroit. He doesn't move anybody in the run game. He doesn't have great range. He is a pass blocking specialist, which, there's a use for that, certainly. But the way that the Lions want to ground and pound the ball, he's not the best fit, honestly. So I don't see them chasing him as we get into free agency, which starts. There are Blake Miller probably needs to play. I see the questions here. And again, I got to pay more. Chris is much better at hosting these than I am, and I apologize for that. Blake Miller can play right, can play left. I would prefer him at the right side, though. He just doesn't have the agility to handle the speed rushers that typically wind up on the quarterback's blind side. He does still struggle some with these smaller, the David Bailey style pass rushers of the world, the guys who like to get low and flatten the corner quickly. There aren't a lot of them, but Bailey is certainly one. He's a good one. He'll be long gone before the Lions pick at 17. He could go number 2. I don't think he will, but he could. I think Arvell Reese is going 2. Sonny Styles probably going 5. New York's getting some Ohio State linebackers in there. Somebody brought up Jermaine Illuminor. He's a decent option on the free agent market as well. Wouldn't hate bringing him in at all. He's probably a little bit more affordable. He has played for Mike Kafka and the Giants. Certainly at worst, you bring him in and he is your Dan Skipper replacement as the top swing tackle. That's sort of throwing in the towel on Giovanni Manu, but it's been 2 years. We haven't seen Squadouche yet. So and this is the hard, and this harkens back to the earlier thing that I was talking about. It's difficult to let players go that we like. And a lot of us really liked Taylor Decker. A lot of us really liked David Montgomery. And seeing that change in such a stark way, it's a reminder that football is a cruel business. It's a reminder that the Lions do have business to do. By the same token, they haven't won yet. Were they going to win the Super Bowl? Is Taylor Decker not having him? Does that keep them from winning the Super Bowl any more than it did? Like, I don't know, man. Because of his injury status, I'm much more on the side of I think this might be a positive. It's a risk, but I think it's a risk that's done with the foresight that they can get a replacement in here who could be just as good, if not better than him right away. So that's where I'm at. Somebody asked, could you consider Manu at guard? It's asking him to do something that he's not done before. He's having a super tall guard, and he is 6'8", 6'9". That runs into trouble when you're a pocket passing team. The Cardinals, where Drew Betson came from, had this issue because they had Kyler Murray as their quarterback, which exacerbates it. But like Hjalte Froholt, their center, he's like 6'8", 6'7", 6'8", and like you could see that Murray had trouble seeing around him. Like he got in the way of passing lanes at times because he's so tall. And one of Manu's biggest problems is that he plays straight up. He plays very tall. That's one of the reasons why you have your tall guys generally play outside. Remember Cornelius Lucas, by the way, he's on the market again, was 6'9", tackle only. They tried him in a couple of practices as a guard, and Stafford kept hitting him with the ball. I was there. It was weird. That is a very real issue with moving Manu inside. Good thought, though. A couple of questions here. I'll try to get the questions here. Let's see. Any chance we shop JMO? God, I hope not. I mean, because then you're creating a hole that you don't need. Like, you've got dynamic 1-2 punch at wide receiver in St. Brown and JMO, and Tesla's coming on. That's not something you want to get rid of when you're going to be a team that has to outscore what your defense gives up. And that's one of the things that I really hope that the Lions mentality gets back into, is that we need to go out and score early and often. And they got away from that last year. You have to have a different how do I say this? There's a mindset that comes when you don't have a good defense and you know that you have to keep scoring. It's one of the reasons why Dan does go for it on fourth down a lot. But it's also one of the reasons why maybe you should take some points instead of taking that risk. Kick that 52-yard field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 6 from the opposing 35. But it's also like setting up, like, we got to empty the barrels on offense. And I don't think they did a good enough job of that last year compared to how they did it the year before and the year before that, where the defense wasn't any better. In fact, the defense was much worse those years, but they knew that they could do it on offense. And I want them to get back to that. And if you don't have JMO, you don't have Laporte, you don't have Gibbs, like, you got to have all those weapons, all those hands on deck. That's what I want them to do. Been led to believe that they sort of see it that way too. That's one of the things that I think bringing in Kafka specifically will help a lot, because he's got some experience with that, with the places that he's been. Yeah, just a couple more of the comments here. Taylor Decker is all but done. You are not stabilized after shoulder cleanup surgeries. Yeah, that's fair. I think that's where the Lions are coming at this. Like, you've got. Look, again, I wasn't in the building. I don't know the conversation, but I imagine it probably went something like, "Hey, Taylor, we're glad you're back, but we can't afford to pay you all that money and have you never practice and miss, a handful of games just because your shoulder isn't right that day. We don't know that you can make it through the entire season. We've got to have reinforcements in, and we need all the money to do that." And again, he balked at that. That's his right. It's disappointing, but it's his right, And if I were him, I might have done the same thing. I'd like to be in a situation where I have to wait whether I want 3 million or 14 million. That would be a nice problem to have. Yeah. Rick, this is fun. Which NFC team does Decker play for? NFC North team? It wouldn't surprise me at all if he winds up in Chicago, because again, their left tackle Ozzie Trapillo tore his AC or a meniscus. He has a meniscus tear that will keep him out for at least the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season, if not longer. Taylor Decker can come in. He knows Ben Johnson. He knows the offense. He can ride that until Trapillo gets back. Hopefully from their standpoint, Decker could get that 8 to 10 games and then go off in the sunset. You rest his shoulder and hang out with his family. I can definitely see that happening. And Decker is the sort who will want to poke the bear, you know what I mean? Like, the Lions I'm done with the Lions. I'm going to go where I can hurt the Lions. I can see him being that kind of guy, which is sad because I don't know if he was ever going to be one of the people that was inducted into the Ring of Honor, or he certainly wasn't going to get his jersey retired, but this was a guy who was a very good player for a long time. Always fan friendly, always a good dude. And it just sucks, man. Wes said it with Demo, a better year early than a year late. Yes. And that is probably more applicable with Decker than Demo, because I do think that the reduced usage actually, ironically, probably extends his usefulness for a year or two as a running back. When you're 28 years old and you're only getting the ball 8 to 10 times a game, which is what he got down the stretch. By the way, one thing that bugged me about the whole Demo thing, I'll just detour on this real quick. Everybody was saying that it was the John Morton offense that forced him out because they were reducing his touches. No, he got the ball a lot more, when Morton was still running the offense. It was when Dan took it over that his touches fell off. So don't mix that narrative up. That there are a whole lot of valid reasons to hate what John Morton did to this team. That's not one of them, unfortunately. Yeah. Chris chimes in. Thank you for joining me, my fearless co-host, in the comments section. I got about 10 minutes left before I gotta skedaddle. Let's talk about some of the second and third tier offensive linemen. I brought up Ahinaker. He's a developmental guy. He might be not ready to play in 2026 as a left tackle right away, but in 2027, 2028, he might be better than Mauinoa. He might be better than Fano. He might be better than Lomu. He's got that kind of arc, and he is definitely a Lions type of guy. I like Caleb Tiernan as a second-round pick from Northwestern. He's a little bit upright. He actually has a lot of the same detriments that the early Taylor Decker did. And he plays a little stiff, doesn't always bend. Shorter guys can get under him and into him and around him. Good player, though. Quality player. You want to go deeper? Not if you watch them at the combine. You're going to hate me for saying this, but Crownover from giant dude from Texas A&M, because he fell down in the wave drill. He does have some good film. He's a fourth round, fifth round pick that you take as a flyer, as a developmental guy that you can work him in where he would be a backup in year one. And come in and beyond that. Caleb Proctor, I have never seen him as a Lions fit. And after absorbing the combine, I think even less of that as a fit. I don't want to dog the guy, but I don't think he's a first-round talent. I know a lot of people agree with that. A lot of people that wear NFL licensed gear as their professional thing agree with that. I think he's also going to play guard. Wouldn't surprise me at all if he was the Browns' first pick in the second round and they install him as their left guard. Yeah. We haven't even gotten to the interior offensive line. The Lions need – look, depending on what they do with Miles Frazier, and I don't know what they're going to do with Miles Frazier. I wish I did. I think Miles Frazier would like to know what they're going to do with Miles Frazier, quite frankly. He's in the mix somewhere. You got that's the hard part, is that you're needing maybe 2 new starters, and that was the upside of Taylor Decker coming back. Like, even in his dilapidated state, he could still start for you. He knew the offense. He knew, like, he was still a good run blocker. Pass protection kind of came and went with the shoulder, but now that he's gone, like, that Band-Aid's ripped off, man. And when you've got other needs on the team, you do still need a safety. You're going to have to replace Anzalone and Rodrigo in some form. I don't know that Rodrigo is going to be gone. Don't know that. I suspect that another team is going to value him more than the Lions do and reward that contractually. I don't think Alex Anzalone is back in Detroit. I think if you're a Jets fan, or if you're an Alex Anzalone fan, you can probably ask him what number he's going to wear with the Jets and order your jersey now before free agency starts. It's like the least well-kept secret that's out there. AG loves him. I still love him. It's going to be sad to see him play in another uniform, but that's the reality of being in the NFL these days. As a fan, like, you buy the jersey with the understanding that he might be gone in a year. Heck, my friend Sarah, like, my husband got me a Demo jersey for Christmas. Yeah, wear it with pride, man. He was good here. Might not want to wear it this year, but, like, down the road, like, we still see all these old player jerseys. There's a lot of Golden Tate jerseys out there. There's a lot of Reggie Bush jerseys out there. There's a Louis Delmas jersey. Dude shows up every year at training camp with his Delmas jersey. I applaud you, sir. Loved Delmas. Still do. Hoping that Kirby Joseph isn't Louis Delmas 2.0 with the injuries. But they need safety. They do need tight end depth. They got to find somebody there. Like, there are a lot of holes now. You got to find a number 2 running back. Talked about this in the mailbag, and I do think that we might be going through a shift in the team dynamic at the number 2 running back. Jahmyr Gibbs is clearly the alpha dog now. Not that he wasn't last year. They might be okay with Jacob Sailors taking over the 8 to 10 touch, 2 to 3 drive a game Demo role for a dirt cheap contract. Guys showed some things in the UFL. He showed some things in training camp last year. I wouldn't hate it. I'd like to have Craig Reynolds back. Doesn't sound like he's coming back, unfortunately, but he's in New England now. I don't think they're going to devote the resource, and this is just my thought. I don't think they're going to devote that much resources to the number 2 running back role when they have so many other roles to fill. That could be a lower priority. Running backs are low paid by nature for a reason. They are largely disposable if you're not a star. Will you really notice the difference between David Montgomery and his 4.5 yards per carry and Jacob Sailors getting 4.3 and the same amount of touches? I can't answer that, but I don't think it will hurt the offense that much. I really don't. That's one of the reasons why the Lions made the business decision. It's one of the reasons why David Montgomery wanted out. And he did want out. No, people didn't want to hear that, but he wanted out. As far as, like, the team culture, I think they're fine. Just look, again, I strongly encourage Lions fans en masse. Open the window, look around the NFC, look around the NFL. Look what's happening in Philadelphia, where they're now trying to unload Jalen Carter because they're tired of him too. They lost their offensive line coach. They are very close to losing a couple of offensive linemen for good. They have 1 year left with them. They are trying to trade A.J. Brown. He wants out. Seattle, they're letting the Super Bowl MVP walk. Why? Because they can't afford to keep him. Kenneth Walker is a fantastic running back. The market might not be there for him that he thinks either. All the contending teams have the same sort of level of doubt and offseason, because we haven't added anybody yet. I think this is true with all NFL fan bases. Because there's no new additions, we're focused so much on the subtractions. That's happening in Houston, I can tell you that. It's happening in Baltimore. Now that they have Max Crosby, they're a little bit different. Different situation, new coaching staff. Think about what's going on in Pittsburgh right now. TJ Watt might not be back. It was suggested at the combine that he might be tradable for a team that is getting very, very, very old and has a new coaching staff. It's not just Detroit that is going through this. It's under the microscope because we are Lions fans, and it's what we see in front of us all the time and what we hear on the radio all the time. Lions are not unique or unusual in that standpoint, and try to keep that in mind when you're stressed out about where this team is going and where it's focused on. It is hard though. Like, are the Lions as good now as they were at the end of the season? Hell no, they're not. Lost your starting left tackle. You lost a good running back. You're losing your captain linebacker. These things have to be replaced. It's not easy to do. That's the hard part. But if you have faith in Holmes, you have faith in Campbell, you have faith in your coaching staff, you have faith in the leaders that are still on this team, the very high-end talent that's still all over this roster. Like, one of the reasons why we can't afford to pay Taylor Decker what he was going to get is because they've paid stars, J-Mo, Saint, Sewell. They're going to pay Gibbs soon. Hutch, like, they paid their safety. Kirby Joseph, if he's ever healthy, is an all-pro. Like, there's a lot of really good high-end talent still on this roster. It does need help, though. I do have to call it a day with that one, unfortunately. I thank you all for joining me on this. We're going to try to do a little bit more of this. I rather enjoyed this. I will remember my microphone next time. Thank you all for joining in, man. I appreciate it. This is Jeff Risden with the Daily DLP signing out. Be good to one another. Thank you.